Welcome to the Light and Love Box channel. You are part of a growing community bringing peace, possibility, and prosperity to help transform our world with light and love. And today we have Ana Cortez with us, and my name's Tracy Anderson.
My name is Joe Courier.
So, if you have been following the channel, you know that we have been working with Ana and her amazing deck, the Doors of Somlipith. And if you do not have your own deck, you absolutely must check them out. So, as always, I will have links available for you to get your own deck. We are continuing our journey with our collaboration and kind of this unraveling, unveiling of the story that is meant to be an opportunity to allow yourself to relax into the story and find yourself in the story so that you can achieve greater and deeper levels of healing and transformation.
It's a full immersion, in other words,
Mm-hmm.
into something that is outside of yourself so that inside of yourself you can begin that transformation, which is kind of a fun way to say a lot of what we're going to talk about today is that thought of internal, external dualities, if you
Mm-hmm.
will, of different things that are opposite of each other and yet are so alike because they balance each other.
Kind of in keeping with what we have done, we have explored the gate cards. And if you haven't had that opportunity, I will continue to include the link for Anna's video specifically on the gate cards. But we have kind of dived into that process as well. But it is the ace, 2 and 3 of diamonds and the 4 of spades that kind of are the gate cards. The card we actually drew was the 9 of spades, which is Dracula. And with Dracula, we drew the rune Thurisaz. So today we're going to kind of dive into the meaning of those things, and hopefully you will find some inspiration to achieve greater healing in your own life. So Anna, I am chomping at the bit. I want to hear about this Dracula card because there are, in your book, it's, that's the vampire. I don't know, like you use some very interesting words.
Yeah, tell me.
It's it's compelled by the heart. It's to sustain life. It's seduction. It's temptation. It's obsession, mesmerizing or being mesmerized, the allure of power and influence. It's a drain of life force, overwork, addiction, bad company, psychic attachments, eternal being with many lives. This card is so electric. Like there is so much to dive into. And when you combine Thurisaz with this card, man, it almost feels like you're naked standing there with like everybody looking because there is so much in here. Because the rune is expansion of consciousness, potential energy, contained in 2 polarized extremes. It's a source of strength, but it's also a catalyst for transformation and change. But on the darker side, it's warning of an enemy. And there is so much in that Dracula card that it's almost like that enemy within.
Yes.
And so I really want to hear your take, your spin. Like, man, there's a lot going on.
Okay, you get to deliver Dracula to us. So,
Well, I think what you read, what I wrote, is a good summation. And I think our fascination with vampire movies just is endless. It's been redone so many ways, and it's always a guaranteed Sizzler. I mean, we are fascinated with the idea of Dracula because it resonates. We all have Dracula inside of ourselves, and he comes to the fore every now and then within each one of our own lives. And I love that you drew that card for this time period right now, in case people who are watching don't know, right? We've said it before. You all drew cards for every lunar month of this year in advance. And I just think and I love, can you show that rune again? Because I'm not familiar with the runes. I want to see what that looks like.
Yep, it's I don't know if it's super clear.
It
Can you
looks like a number 4.
kind of, they call it the thorn. So it's a line and then like a triangle
Okay.
coming out from the middle of that straight line.
So like
Mhm.
a rose thorn, as if it's the stem of a rose, and
Gotcha.
then there's the
So
thorn.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, what do you want to talk about Dracula, or how is it coming up for you?
Well, I so if anyone has read Anna's book, there is this little cryptic message in there. It's the there's a way to overcome this energy and come out on the victorious side.
Mhm.
So I think that's where the true hope lies, is because this card is so intense.
Yeah.
The real hope lies in that that way to overcome
Yeah.
this. So
Yeah.
that's what I that's what I wanna know.
So, I try to I try to leave clues. I like to leave it like a mystery novel, and pieces that fit together aren't necessarily placed together within the 3 books that have come out. There's a lot there. So if you go back to the book Oracle Alchemy, which
Mhm.
I know Tracy has read,
Not
um,
yet. No.
yeah, I forgive you.
Thank
Um,
you.
And I must say, if you have not read that book, it was a page turner. I could not put that book down. I think I had that book read. I've never read a book that fast, ever.
so then about the doorways,
Mhm.
right? The red and the black doorway, or the red and the black gate, I think I'm not sure how they were referred to there. But there is a black doorway. And especially if you see the cards that make the doorway show up together, you have a you have a creation, you have something happening there in your spread, wherein the 9 of spades, Dracula, combined with the 9 of clubs, the other black 9, um, they are polar opposites as well within the color black, right? Red and black each have opposites within them, just like red and black are opposites. There are sub opposites. So the black 9s create opposites. Galahad is purity,
Mhm.
virtue, and Dracula is debauchery and corruption.
Mhm.
And together, but neither is complete, right? As we were talking about, these polarities need each other, and they create a whole. So we tend to polarize ourselves by gravitating toward things that feel more comfortable, but truly we need those opposites together. And so what I believe I was referring to in that section of the Doors of Somlipith was this creation of the black doorway. So you have to bring in the opposite consciously. If you're experiencing Dracula, you bring in the 9 of clubs to complement it, and it's not
Mhm.
like you're trying to
Okay.
annihilate Dracula, but it's a transformational process, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So we counter Dracula with that other energy.
And I think that's something you said. It's a transformational process. And I know that that's a theme that we go back to multiple times in these videos, but that's truly why we're here, is to
Right.
create transformation for ourselves and for others. That's my belief, that
Mhm.
there is a greater purpose for us to be here. But in order to do that, there
Mhm.
has to be a catalyst.
Mm,
Well, I look at Dracula, okay? And I think the lore and the perhaps the allure to Dracula is that it's life immortal. You can live forever. And yet, within that, there are so many things that you don't think about that would be really challenging. If you lived forever, you would never still have a family.
mm,
Everybody would be gone.
Mhm.
And you would never be able to talk about your memories because they're
Mhm.
so long ago, nobody can relate to them. That's just a minor point. But
right.
it's that pull. Um,
Mm,
I think about magnets this way. You know, there's a this magnetic pull, and there's a place where it's that perfect, not quite there, but it's still pulling. And then there's this place where it's just like beyond control. They just snap together.
Mhm.
But then there's this other place where when you're that far away, they don't pull whatsoever. So it's that tipping point, if you will, that some people call it a tickle point, whatever.
Mhm.
And life is like that, at least for me.
Mhm.
It's all about what's my catalyst? What am I looking for? Am I blaming something outside of myself? Or am I truly willing to look inside and see what work I need to do?
mm,
Because I think there's always both.
Mhm.
mm.
Well, I mean, and that's a pretty electric point, just in of itself, because so many people are looking for the problem outside themselves. They're not willing to look at what's on the inside.
Right. Or what they own.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's
exactly.
easier to blame.
Yes.
What were you
And
going to
that's our first impulse as humans. I think that is the challenge as
Mm.
humans, is to remember that it's all inside of us, you know?
Yeah.
say? And we don't remember it. That's
No,
just it.
it's
We don't remember
conditioned reactions from the moment we're born to look
yes.
for the problem out here, right?
Or the answer even. I
Yeah.
mean, we're so trained at this point in our society
Mhm.
that the expert always lies outside of ourselves, that
Mhm.
we aren't an expert even on ourselves.
Right.
Mhm. Now, this could be way off track. I don't know, Anna. So you might have to like be like, no, no, not that. But I can't help but think, okay, this Dracula card, it's about immortality, right?
Mhm.
To some extent, right? We don't live an uninterrupted life, right? Like we die, we're born, we die, you know, we believe in multiple,
That
reoccurrences of our soul, right? What if what if this is immortality of the soul, because the soul cannot be destroyed, right?
Mhm.
Energy.
Mhm.
So I can't help but think this is a deep dive into past lives as well.
Yeah.
And what is occurring each time we
mhm.
experience our soul experiences a life in a different place, a different time, a different space.
Right. And the thing and what calls us back to repeat those cycles are unresolved issues in the physical world, which is the spade suit. because
Mhm.
the soul is not of spades, and yet it seeks experiences in the physical realm to feed itself energetically.
Mhm.
It does, yeah.
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 Hold a similar belief, and
Mm,
that the greater challenges we face in our life, I think sometimes that speaks to the fortitude and the strength of our soul, and that we were willing to come in and be challenged because
that's right.
we knew that we wanted to grow and we had the strength.
Well, and basically that's the progression of the cards. You
The
have
gate cards, you
yeah,
mean?
the gate cards. So you've got the 2 of diamonds leading to the 3 of diamonds, which is all about ambition.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, and 9 is the final number, right? The
Mhm.
Dracula card. He
Yeah.
is the final card within the, spade pips,
Mhm.
and he is, in many ways, the final spade card, the numerical card, so he's the ending of cycles, right?
Mhm.
So it's that recurrence you're talking about, the wheel spinning around, and it's like, if we can face Dracula and something that we've seen before and we know we've seen it before, it's like
Mhm.
coming around again so we can end that cycle. And that is the gift that Dracula is trying to shake us awake to, is to finally, as you said, be victorious or triumph or whatever over that card, is
Mhm.
really end whatever cycle um,
Mhm.
he's bringing.
It I'm just wondering, we talk about ending cycles. Is it so much an ending of a cycle, or is it the harmonization of that cycle so that you then have that perfect balance within yourself so
Mhm.
that you don't have to keep working it over and over?
Right. So you're not called, or you're not gravitated toward having that experience again
The
because
negative aspect of that experience.
right, it's unresolved. You're not at peace with whatever it is. Yeah, so a heavy hitting card, can show up in so many different ways, but it's like having a pile of rocks on your back, it's heavy.
Mhm.
And it's so interesting to see how different people really experience that card in different ways.
I I honestly feel that everybody in their own inward exploration feels almost as if their bag of rocks is heavier than anybody else's because we only have our own perspective to look at.
Mhm.
Tracy and I were talking earlier. It's really easy to not show that you have a bag of rocks on your back. You
Mhm.
know, you smile, you push through, you don't disclose all the things that you you're carrying perhaps.
Mhm.
Doesn't make that bag of rocks any less weighty.
Right. Might make it heavier actually when it's kept to yourself.
Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm. And how do you I'm curious, you, Tracy, working with that card to develop the story, right, for this month's Coming
Mhm.
Light Love box, and you also being aware of the natural gate for this time period. How did
Mhm.
you see the connection between all of those different card elements?
One of the really strong things that I am sensing is found in this competition, this duality card, because it's talking about how
This one.
we
Yes, the two
yes,
of
yep,
diamonds.
the 2 of diamonds.
Mhm.
So,
Yep, the rivals.
yes,
Mhm.
but this concept that the forces depend on one another, and that each of those forces is contained within us. And when I got a little glimpse in a dream of this story, and what is very interesting to me is I saw myself falling through that space of the division between the two forces.
Mm,
When I fall, I'm falling in the infinity symbol.
wow.
And it's as I've done some digging, it's like this infinity shape is so um pivotal to our soul and the progression of our soul. And
It's also found in our physical bodies. They say that our circulation, our blood flow follows this pattern. And you could even translate it in some ways to that idea of the DNA. If it was connected, it would also
Mhm.
have that infinite shape, that infinity symbol.
yeah, and so it's like it's like there is something truly important that we need to grab and understand about what that means for us, because I feel like if we can find that flow of those two extremes,
Mhm.
right, find that balance point as you're moving through that gate when you arrive and you meet Dracula and you see Dracula and the effects of that in your own life, it's like it's going to allow us to break through and meet the balance that's needed at that card. I I don't know how to explain it. I feel like and I don't know if it's because I'm in that fire, I'm a Leo, so I don't know if that's why these cards are particularly intense for me. Um, Anna's actually had the opportunity to see my lab, as she called it, but I have these cards on my wall. I'm constantly looking at them. I feel like I'm almost like I can feel myself moving through these gates, and it's like I almost need to experience the gates so that then I know where that story's coming from.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I don't know. I really it's hard for me to put into words, but I feel these things very intensely right
Mm. Well, you should. And that's what the cards are for, right?
now.
It's
Mhm,
like a map pointing us to things that need our attention,
mhm,
right? And that we can easily just go, discredit sort of our own internal experience of things, but to see it mirrored outside of ourselves in the cards, right, is like a confirmation or a validation.
mhm,
And it's like, no, that is what you're supposed to be paying attention to. And
mm,
no, the struggle is real. And it's not like this is a way to look at it, you know.
mhm,
So yeah, I love that's what I love about cards is they make our internal world. They give us something to focus on. So yeah, I think it's great. And while you were talking about the figure eight and that balance point, I was thinking of what Joe was talking about the magnets and that point where, the two forces are equal and they meet and there's ultimate tension. And it's like that space of the rivals, right? There's a
mm,
rivalry going on and it's so uncomfortable. And it's this magic place where there's so much life force. So, this moment of sunrise or sunset is when the whole sky just explodes in color,
mhm,
with creative force. And I think part of our work um, here on this planet is to quit seeking these damn spaces of comfort, you know? And it's kind of like a cosmic orgasm, right? So it's like living in this creative space where we don't know the answers
Mhm.
and we don't know the outcomes. And we always are looking for that which will pacify us. But in the rivals, there is not any of that
Mhm.
given to us. Yeah.
We want to be in that place of being comfortable, but we grow better when we are in that space of being uncomfortable. So we
Right.
need to learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Right. Exactly. So we're building our spiritual vessel, our energetic body, so that we can hold those experiences.
Yes.
Mm.
Mhm.
The other thing that I want to talk about with this box is all of the things that we found, those coincidences or the things that sort of led to, oh, that's why we felt guided to use this in the box. Um, so a lot of what we brought in were things that represent a balance like that, a
Mm.
point. So
Mhm.
one of the stones, the crystal that's coming this time, is a form of uh, pink and green tourmaline. And in its perfect form, we call it watermelon tourmaline because it looks like the inside of a pink watermelon ringed by the green rind on the outside.
Mhm.
But in that pink and green tourmaline, it is a place of multiple balances. It balances masculine and feminine. It balances, if you look at from a chakra standpoint, our heart, we have our high heart and our lower heart, but we represent it usually by pink and green. So it's
Mhm.
that center of us, but it's dual colors. It's not one
Mhm.
or the other.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay.
Love that.
And then the other thing that we looked at is we brought in a beautiful crystal that most people aren't going to be familiar with. And this is a large tower of this crystal. It's called trollite. And it's actually a combination of four different elements. And one of them is actually blue tourmaline again. So we
Wow.
have the tourmalines that kind of followed through in this box.
Mhm.
And when you look at some of the qualities or the balances that the trolite brings, is it actually has you focusing on things like communication. But communication means listening as much as you speak or
Mhm.
or even more, but it's that balance between, because there's no communication unless you do both. It's a really great place for finding, or the trolite is a good quality or a stone to find the quality of that emotional balance in harmony.
Mhm.
But you can't bring that into your life until you've done the healing, which again goes to the space of it feels comfortable and wonderful, but you can't feel that way until you look at what's uncomfortable.
Right.
Mhm.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love the crystals you guys put in the boxes. I always discover a new crystal that I've never seen before. And I'm always convinced it's my new favorite crystal. And then the next box comes out and I'm like, oh, wait, this is my favorite crystal now.
Well, thank you for saying that because it's like one of my favorite parts of the box too. I just can't help it being
You
able to
guys do an
acknowledge
amazing job with the crystals. Yeah.
it. And the other thing that I saw in this box was this idea of water and flow. So it is represented in the rival card for sure, because it's like this interface of like it could be a water interface, one
Mhm.
is floating above and below.
Mhm.
I think about Dracula. Well, our bodies are mostly water, and that's our blood, and that's,
Mhm.
Dracula is associated with the blood, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, and then when we were talking about the infinity symbol, uh, the little bit that I understand, and I am not the chemical engineer in my partnership with my husband, he's the chemical engineer. But when we talk about essential oils, or even things as mundane as salad dressing, Okay, so like
Salad dressing.
Yeah.
I had no
let's
idea we were gonna
say
talk
that
about
you
salad
have
dressing.
oil and vinegar, right? And so when you let it sit, the oil floats to the top, the vinegar is below, but there's this line in the middle that we call the interface.
Mhm.
Essential oils are the same way. Distilled essential oils, steam distilled, they reach a point where the oil, it's not truly oil, but it's the volatiles of the plant volatiles rise to the top, the water is below, and there's a place where it's a little above that.
Mm, mhm.
When we were talking about the infinity symbol, it's as if when we are seeking balance, if
Mhm.
we could almost envision ourselves in that interface that you spoke of, you were falling through it.
Mhm.
But if you can envision that as almost like liquid light or liquid darkness, but a liquid space of some kind. And if you could find yourself in a place where you automatically did the infinity, like
Right.
that you could feel it, visualize it, imagine it, whatever it is,
Mhm.
then that might be a really great meditation point to
Mhm.
find what you're seeking within yourself.
Mhm.
And that reminds me of Dracula again, and this relationship of Dracula and the two of diamonds, or any two card. But Dracula, is being the last card. The next card is the ace, right? So he's ending, but he's on the precipice of a beginning, right? I mean, there's a very close relationship between death and birth.
Oh,
And
Mhm.
at the equinox in the fall, we have that gate where the Dracula meets the ace, the black ace of clubs. So it's just that dichotomy again. I think that's another clue to the whole Dracula mystery. And of course, none of it makes any bit of sense or difference unless we bring it inside ourselves. Like
Mhm.
how does that then apply to what I am going through today?
Right.
This bag of rocks on my back. Like, who cares about the ace and like, how do we find that language inside of ourselves and
Mhm.
apply it? Because that's the alchemy and that's the gift that any real study like this is here to give us. But we have to jump that gap,
and
and we have to
that's
find that.
that's the real purpose of Light and Love Box.
Mhm.
It is that transformational tool opportunity that when you don't know how to do that, you don't know what it is that you need to move forward. Here's something you don't even have to think about. Here are all the items you need. Here's the guidance. It's an invitation to find a place of healing within yourself. And you
Mhm.
can do it without any angst because it's
Right.
ready for you. And
Mhm.
You don't
if
have
you
to research the planetary alignments and the materials and
Yep,
gather the stuff. You can focus on your inner process.
yes,
Mhm.
Hmm.
in a way that allows you to not be stressed about not understanding how to do it or having what you need. It's
Mhm.
it's it's a guidebook and everything you need to go with it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, it lets you place the focus where it needs to be on
Yes.
that healing because ultimately that's what matters.
And I love how you turn the cards into stories, Tracy, because the stories, then we can find those stories
Mhm.
inside of ourselves and the journey that these cards take. And yeah,
Mhm.
I think story is another bridge, like ritual is a bridge
Mhm.
um, between the inner and outer experience. Yeah, so very powerful. I love your
And
boxes.
I know that it's not going to be applicable to all of time, but right now I find it so interesting that back in September when we drew these cards, this is the set of cards for this particular box. And it's coming out in April of 2024. April has a lot of really interesting things, including the eclipse, the
Oh yeah.
solar lunar eclipse that's
Oh
happening.
yeah.
And so we didn't plan it that way. I mean, and that is that perfect blend of light and dark, where they both take turns, being dominant.
I don't know. I think this time period is just especially juicy. It feels like people are going through like massive like transformational experiences in their lives, even if it just feels like you're up against a wall or you're ready for a transformation. But I think this place of ultimate tension, is really peaking in so many people's lives that I'm talking to. And I think it's just such a juicy time for all this work that we're talking about. And and I love, if you are speaking to whoever's watching this video, if you are going through a push and pull kind of time in your life where, you know, things are changing, but you're not sure how they're changing, and if there's uncertainty and discomfort, it's okay to stay in the discomfort. It's okay to not have that place of knowing yet. And this is going to allow for a glorious, right, display in the heavens within your own life. Something new is and colorful and unexpected when these forces are pitted against each other. And if you can hold that space, and not try to find the nearest exit, like there's a lot of potential. We're birthing a new world right now.
Well, and with that being said, the last gate is actually the north wind. And that
Mhm.
is all about the test of determination and durability.
I love it.
Yeah, it's raw and forceful and dynamic. I think that is
Serendipitous.
yeah, yeah,
Serendipitous. There it
yes.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
Well, thank you, Anna. Thank you for joining us once again.
Pleasure. It's a
Oh,
Yeah.
pleasure.
even though we are on two opposite ends of the country, almost.
Yeah, holding down the fort on both ends. Yeah.
Well, I would like to invite any of you who are watching to check out the links below, subscribe to the monthly videos that we do so that you can be inspired each month and explore this opportunity to transform and change with us. And
If this saga is piquing your interest, please remember you can get all of the boxes starting with the beginning of the
Mhm.
saga. And when Anna joined us with the Doors of Somlipith cards.
Yeah.
So you can start the adventure from the beginning.
Cool.
Yeah, so thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Take care.
Yeah.